Right. Check, check. Looks like we good to go. Back in this thing. It's been a minute, man. I ain't done this in a while. Got everything together and set it up to be able to share some information and some knowledge. And, I took a little hiatus. I've been focused on, some things in life. But I came across some videos that were basically telling, the audience or the listener, hey, you should learn to monetize your knowledge. And it was something that I was already kind of on the cusp of doing. If you go back and you'll see some videos that are on this channel where I was just trying to start out, just trying to figure out things, learning how to set the camera up, how to put the mic together and all of the troubleshooting. And, now I feel like my spirit has pushed me to kind of get back to this place after coming across videos and coming across the video in particular where the guy was basically saying, hey, you need to monetize your knowledge and you need to give it out to the world, whether, you have an audience of 0 or you have an audience of 100,000. And so, it really kind of just sparked me to kind of get back into this. Personally, I've been working on some projects that I think are going to be really awesome. But I wanted to kind of reframe what it was that I was going to be talking about on this channel. I think that, when I first kind of started, I wanted to talk about relationships and, what's the type of information that you need to be successful in relationships. And I see a lot of that. And, I do think that I have a lot of, knowledge when it comes to things of that nature. But I also, I didn't want to jump into the same pool that everybody else was in already. And one thing that I realized in taking a look at myself was that there's information that I've learned in my life from the way that I grew up that I'm sure other people along the path have grown up that same way. And maybe their journey led them to different destinations. And at my point in life right now, I'm in a healthy destination. And I still got a lot of ways to go. I'm still a young man, but I want to be able to give the information to that kid, being like myself, who is a representative of multiple kids who are probably in that same position, of what it's like to grow up in a single parent household and, you don't have a father around and you're trying to find your way. And, there's a lot of different complications and hurdles that come with that. And so I just felt like it would be good for me to document and give out information for, those people who are looking for some information to help them get to where they want to be in life. It's come with a lot of trial and error, a lot of hurdles, but I think that, if you find the right people to be able to, tap in with or learn from, it can really change the trajectory of your life and where it's going to go. Just to kind of get into some things, I'll start with myself. I grew up with a mother who had me at a very young age, which, I'm sure that's a lot of people's story nowadays. Times before my youth, it was very uncommon for people to grow up without having their parents around. And now it's more common than not. And so, you kind of end up being in this place where, your mother becomes your end all be all. And I think that when you're a young man, there's some things that, you have to get in place in order to, have a successful future for yourself while you're in this life and in your journey of learning. And so, I grew up with just my mom, and she was young and she was learning on, herself as well as having to be a parent early. and not coming from the most healthy of backgrounds herself, I think that a lot of times there's a lot of I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say like failures, but there's missed opportunities to be able to invest in the child and these things that can help the child in the future. And she came from a troubled background, and it was just for the most part her and her mother and her brother. And so the information that she had was limited. And I think that a lot of our parents nowadays are, come from a limited source of information, especially when they didn't grow up in the times that we have now, which is you can just go and click on the internet and look up something like YouTube. So, in that, there was a lot of struggles for myself. Mainly being that I was the firstborn, so my mom did a lot of trial and error with me. And on top of that, being that I have a multicultural background. So when you're growing up and you look different from everybody else that's around you, you at first you think that you look like everybody else. And I think that as time progresses, you learn that you're a little different from everybody else. Everybody gives you nicknames and you realize, wait a minute, I'm a little different from everybody else. And so that played a part in my personal journey, being able to try to find myself, but on top of that, trying to figure out what it meant to be a man. And so, along the lines of that, I think that, I've learned, I would say more so about, my family dynamic in the process than I did myself in the beginning. In the beginning, I was trying to figure out myself, but I learned more about my family being an observer than I did myself. I didn't start learning about myself until later years. And, when you're dealing with a single parent, sometimes you deal with not only the things that you're struggling with, but you also deal with the struggles that they're going through and the hardships that they had to overcome or not yet overcome. And, my mom didn't really know who her real father was. And, for a short period of time in her life, she had a father in the home, but it wasn't her real father. And so, you deal with a lot of different things when you're growing up in a single parent household. And maybe your story is not the same as mine, where you look a little different from everybody around you. But one thing that is going to always be true is you understanding that, you and your mom are not going to always be able to see eye to eye on things, but you're going to always want to be the pleaser for her. And I think especially if you're the firstborn, but it really doesn't matter. When you grow up with a single parent, you end up becoming this almost like a crutch for them. And, and then for yourself, you just want to make them happy. And I think that a lot of times in single parent households, we get lost in that. We get lost in trying to do whatever it takes to make our parents happy, or not our parents, our parent happy. And, we don't get to go on the journey of self-discovery because our lives are so much consumed by our parents and making them happy. And so I took some time out and I jotted down a lot of different things that I felt like helped me along the way. And so I think that the first step in your journey of overcoming what it means to be a single, like coming from a single parent household and not having a father and being a boy, and your mom not really truly understanding you and you not really truly understanding her, there's some things that you need to go through. And I think that the first step is to find somebody that you can look up to. And I'll speak for myself personally. I I grew a very like an idolization of my mother's brother, and he was the first like male in my life that I kind of idolized and I wanted to be like. He did things that were really cool. I hardly saw him, and when I did see him, he had nice things. He would take me out to do cool things, buy me clothes. And so he was my first idea of what I said to myself. Okay, here's what I want to, this is what I want to look like in my future. Here's the type of person that I could see myself becoming in the future. And so I think that the first step in graduating from your circumstances is to find that person, whoever that person might be for you, but it needs to be a strong male. And when my uncle wasn't around, I had other, I would say, idols um, that I looked up to, which were athletes. At a young age, I was very interested in sports, um, mainly because it was kind of my way of being able to get away from being at home. And then also, it was just something that I kind of like just grew an interest in. And I think that when you're, excuse me, a young man and you're trying to figure out your way, you'll find those things that you gravitate towards. Some people it's sports, some people it's music, some people it's different types of arts, whether it's painting or drawing or acting. But let your soul kind of be the guide of what it is that you gravitate towards. Um, I think that you should, kind of follow that. And, I wish that somebody had told me that when I was young, even though I kind of already did it. I wish somebody had said, hey, let your inner light guide you in where it is that you're trying to go. And so I kind of gravitated towards sports. So I had people that I looked up to, or men that I looked up to, that I said, hey, I want to be like them in this area because I like sports and I want to be good at sports. And so I took an interest in their life, and I would read books about their life. And then in my personal life, I had my uncle. And then when my uncle wasn't able to be around, I started getting really close with my mother's stepfather. Now, growing up, I did not know that he wasn't my mother's real father. It wasn't until a little later that I found out that he wasn't my mother's real father. He and my grandmother had a marriage that lasted for about 10 years. And that started when my mom was a very young lady. And then my grandmother and my grandpa, they came together, they got married, and then they had my uncle. And that was their biological child. And so my mother and my grandfather, at the time of me coming around, weren't really in the same place that, most parents would be if they were, if they grew up in the same household. And so they did have a relationship that was, pretty good at the time, but he wasn't as around as my grandmother was. And so, my uncle, had his life and he did his different things. And so he wasn't always able to be around, even though I really gravitated towards him. I started spending time with my grandfather. And this was a very important thing for me, even though I didn't realize how important it was for me. And so my relationship with my grandfather ended up becoming a very important one, because he was able to teach me things from times before me, and times before my uncle, and what it was like to be a man when he grew up, and what was it like living when he grew up. And so the information that you find from the people who lived longer than you, is always going to be greater than what you have for yourself, because of the experience that they were able to have. And as life progresses and technology gets better, and we get a little softer from the times before us. And so it's always good to learn from those times. So my grandfather was a war vet. He went to war at 17, Vietnam. And so the type of information that he had on life was very, very important for me. And him being a war vet, he had a lot of different things that he was able to instill in me over time that I wasn't really cognizant of how important they would be. But so having him in my life was very important, especially because my uncle wasn't around. And so what I did is I would take the weekends where I wasn't going off and playing sports. I would take those weekends and go spend them with my grandfather. And he would teach me, how to work in the yard. He would teach me how to get up early, make my bed, and, create a daily planner. And it was just little small things that I'll go into detail on as, I progress with the channel. But these were the people that I kind of started gravitating towards. These were the men that I looked up to and I said, hey, this is who I want to look like when I become a man. And so it's very important for you to find who these men are. And they will change throughout your time and your growth in life. Some you'll keep, forever. And, for the most part, as long as they're alive and you're alive, they'll be there. But sometimes these caricatures that you start looking at and you say, hey, I want to be like that. Sometimes they come in and out of your life. And so I would say, don't take those things the wrong way. Take them as, that this is just how the journey goes. The journey just goes that way, where some people are in your life forever and some come in and out. But the main thing that you want to do is find who these people are. Who are the men that I want to look like when I get to this point in my life, or when I'm at even further part in my life? What is it that I want to look like? And what is the information that they have that got them to where they're at? And you have to take a certain apprenticeship with these people. If they're, idolizations, meaning that they're people that are far away, like for me, the basketball players and football players and baseball players that I looked up to and that I wanted to be like, you have to take an interest in their life and their life story. And so you can kind of learn from that and what got them to where they're at. So, the first step in being able to overcome growing up in a single parent home is to find somebody, or not somebody, but a man that can fill the void that your father would be filling. And you find that in looking up to men that you want to be like, and say, hey, how did you get to where you're at? And what did you do to get to where you're at? And, I'm hoping that, I can give you some information along the lines where maybe you come to me. So, but that's kind of what I wanted to get at for the first video. I didn't want to get too deep into things because I want this to be something that can go on for a while, and that we can kind of, hopefully as time progresses, interact a little more. My goal is to give whoever's willing to see this or watch it any information that you would be looking forward to having growing up with either an absent father, no father, maybe your father was around but he passed. But, for those young boys who grow up with just their mother, you're gonna need guidance. Real quick, I'm gonna look up right now. Let's see. So I'm gonna look up how many single parent households are in the US right now. So in the United States today, let you check it out. So just reading something. In the United States today, nearly 24 million children live in a single parent family. 24 million across. This total, which has been rising for half a century. So like it's continuously growing, like I said in the beginning, where, you know, single parenthood is something that's gonna be a norm. And so, you know, for somebody who grew up and was able to, I would say, make it out of it and be in a position that I'm in now, where everything is okay in my life. I have good credit. I have my own place. I'm able to take a room that I have and turn it into, you know, a room where I'm going to stream at and still have my bedroom. You know, like I'm in a really good place right now in my life. And I wouldn't have been able to get to this point without the steps that it took me to get here, because my life could have been on a totally different path. And so I just want to be able to give out that information. Somebody was once telling me, they said, hey, you know, you should do some type of youth program. And my life's a little busy right now where I wouldn't be able to offer that kind of time, mainly because throughout the days I'm working. But at these times, you know, normally during the night, I can sit back, put on the camera, put on a light, and talk to people and tell them what I've learned. And, you know, hopefully I get better at this as time progresses. But single parenthood is rising, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon. The relationships between men and women are definitely, they're struggling. And so most of us who are going to be born within this year and the coming years, more than likely are going to grow up, and you're going to see one parent far more than you see the other, if you see the other. And so, you know, I'm going to dedicate this channel to being able to help you navigate your way through it. So for the first stream on, you know, getting into this, you know, just take away from this that you need to find men that you want to look like at their age, or when you get older, or when you feel like you're entering into your manhood and you are no longer relying on your parent. What kind of lifestyle that you want to have, and who do you want to look like and resemble? Find these men at your young age, in your youth. Find these men, and it could be a grandpa, uncle, an idol. It can be anybody, but you have to find somebody that you want to look like that isn't, and in no way do I mean disrespect, but that isn't your mother. You have to find these men, and they have to be true men, real men that you can say, this is the kind of guy I want to look like. So hopefully, you know, you stick with me. I'm gonna stick with this and make this be something that's really good and informative for the youth as time progresses. So this is my first one. I'm gonna get better at this, but I'll document my story, and I will document everything that I've done to get to the point that I'm at, and hopefully it'll be able to help you along your path as well. So, you know, Moss Man is gonna go ahead and sign out. Keep a lookout for some new projects, not info, but new projects that's gonna be coming out soon. Got a lot of things in the making. So until the next time, you know, stay suave, stay stupid. Make sure you stay stupid, because if you stay stupid, then you'll always be willing to learn something from somebody. So until the next one, Moss Man out.